Are you ready to beat the heat? This game is to facilitate discussions about concepts in climate change adaptation related to extreme heat. As a community of 4 to 6 players, you are facing rising temperatures, resulting in extreme heat shocks and long-term stresses, like heat waves. But if you plan ahead and take the right adaptation options, you can adapt to these impacts over the course of 3 decades. To play this game, you need a game board, something to serve as tokens such as beans, player pieces to add on the board to showcase how you can move across as you gain and lose points, the beat the heat instructions, the adaptation actions, 3 dice to represent hazards, possible droughts, and blackouts, as well as scorecards to keep track of your score along the way. To start the game, you'll hand each player a scorecard that looks like this. This scorecard is to help players keep track of the adaptation actions they take throughout the game in the different decades. Additionally, you'll instruct each player to write their name on the board. You'll also hand out a list of adaptation actions that each player can take during the decade to improve their score and enhance their ability to adapt to the shocks and stresses of rising temperatures. Once you hand all of the players these materials, you'll need to give them income. The way that players can collect their income is by rolling 2 dice in the first decade. In this scenario, the player will receive 9 tokens. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They use these tokens to invest in the different adaptation options. Additionally, you will also set aside 10 tokens for the community fund in the very first round. This fund can be used by any of the players for any needs, as long as every single player agrees that they can use the community fund. Additionally, before investing in adaptation options, players will start their piece on the 3, as it says here on the game board, start here. As you'll notice, the player number on the bottom and the player number in the zone on the game board each match for players 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Once your game board looks like this and everyone has their income, you're ready to play. Now each player will take a turn investing in adaptation actions. For example, this player might start by investing in a green roof for their home, which costs 4 tokens and will give them 4 adaptation points. Additionally, they might decide to invest in an air conditioning unit for 3 points, as you can see here, and they'll put all of this money back into the pot. They'll then choose to save their 2 tokens for investing in actions later on in the game. Now that they've invested in their actions, they'll fill in their scorecard. So they'll add the green roof to the green section, which corresponds to the green on the actions list, and they'll write a 4 for their 4 points, and they'll total it up and put it in the gray box. For the AC, they'll do the same. Because it's in the blue zone, they'll write it here in the blue zone, AC, and add their 3 points and have the total number here, 3. Then they'll total all their points. Remember that you're starting with 3 points as your initial adaptation score, so don't forget to include that in your total starting points to give you a total of 10. You'll write this number in the first box here that says total adaptation points. Once everyone has had a chance to tally their score and invest in their actions, it's time to roll the red hazard die. This die represents the extreme heat shock of the decade. In this case, that would be a heat wave, and that can have an impact of 1 to 6. Let's check out the extreme heat event of this decade. Unfortunately, this decade, it was a pretty intense heat wave as it landed on a 6. So you'd write this number on your scorecard in the corresponding red box. Following the hazard event, there are also things called cascading impacts, which are events that occur as a result of an extreme heat event like a heat wave. For example, the green dice represents a drought and the blue dice represents a blackout. If either of these dice land on a 6 in decade 1, then a drought and or a blackout has occurred, and the points that you've collected for the green and blue actions associated with these dice will not help your adaptation score. In Decade 2, a drought or a blackout might happen if the dice both land on 5 or 6, and in Decade 3, landing on a 4, 5, or 6 could cause a drought or a blackout. Let's roll to see what happens. Alright, so as you can see here, the green dice landed on a 4, indicating that a drought didn't happen. So luckily, your green roof is all great and intact and your trees are growing strong. Unfortunately, a blackout did occur, resulting in your air conditioner not working, and that is going to impact your score. Let's see what that looks like. As you zoom in on your scorecard, you'll write a 6 here for the extreme heat event of the decade, and you'll write a 0 in the green box because a drought did not occur, meaning, again, all of your trees were safe. As you'll notice, here we had 3 blue points total. Unfortunately, a blackout did occur, meaning that your air conditioner did not kick on and did not work during the extreme heat event. In this case, you'll write a 3 in this box, indicating that, of course, your air conditioner did not work. Now, you'll tally up the total points that you lost, in this case 9, and subtract them from your total adaptation points that you've gained before, leaving you with only 1 adaptation point remaining for this round. Now, after everyone tallies up their points, you'll move everyone to their positions on the board. So in this case, player 1 will move to only 1 point. Let's say player 2 did quite well and only invested in green solutions, so they are all the way at 6. Player 3 didn't change, and player 4 is down a little bit further. To end the round, you'll give everybody income based on where they're at on the board. In this scenario, everybody is in the adapted zone, otherwise known as the yellow zone for Decade 1. As a result, they'll get 4 tokens. However, if somebody was in the danger zone, you'll note that they'll only get 2 tokens, and if somebody was in the well-adapted zone, you'll note that they'll collect 8 tokens. Once you've given everybody their income, that will end the round. As the game goes on, you'll play for 2 more decades, but you'll notice that in the next decade, there's a few new options added to the list of things that you can do. One of those things is community actions, and these are actions that all players can benefit from even if they don't all invest. Either way, they'll get the points. For example, you can invest in a cooling center, which will cost the group 20 tokens, but will give everybody a total of 8 points. Additionally, you can create your own strategy, and these can be a cost and worth as many points as the community agrees on, so don't be afraid to get creative and think of different ways that you can beat the heat. Additionally, you'll notice here something called maintenance. You can pay fewer tokens to help maintain, for example, your green roof from the last round for only 3 tokens. In this round, you'll notice it will give you 5 additional points because as the trees grow, they'll provide more cooling benefits for you and the surrounding area. As the game goes on, your pieces may move forward and they might move backwards, but in the end, if your game board looks anything like this, you have succeeded in beating the heat and adapting to rising temperatures, as everybody is either in the adapted or the well-adapted zones. Are you ready to beat the heat? Let's play to find out.